Foods we never eat these days. Some of the foods our ancestors thought heavenly might turn our stomachs today, just as our modern diet might confuse or even disgust them if time travel were possible. Tastes change over time, but food is one subject which can raise people's suspicions in an instant. When presented with an unknown or taboo food, most people today will at least have second thoughts before digging in, if not refusing the dish altogether. So it's no surprise that there are quite a few historical foods that were once popular, but today are rarely, if ever, eaten. Hound candy. This was once a staple selection in general store candy bins, but most people today have never even tried it. The bittersweet taste, while somewhat more appealing than licorice, is still off-putting in today's chocolate-obsessed and sugar-saturated market. They do still sell this type of candy today, though it can be hard to find. Hound was often used in cough drops and cough syrups because the bitter flavor is thought to help regulate breathing and digestion, so the candy may taste medicinal to some. Pickled limes. This delicacy was mentioned in the book Little Women as being all the rage with the kids at the time. The 1800s were a time of deprivation, but also of innovation. Many Americans had never enjoyed citrus fruit before, and once they got a taste for it, limes imported from the West Indies were used in all kinds of dishes. You may be asking yourself if there was any sugar in these pickled limes back then, and the answer is no. Pickled limes were simply soaked in a brine bath and then eaten like that. This incredibly sour taste was a completely novel experience for young people, and because of this, it became all the rage, much like Warhead or Lemonhead candies were for later generations. This was despite the admonishment of doctors and teachers who actually thought pickled limes to be somewhat dangerous snacks for children to consume. Salty lemonade. Along the same lines, lemons were also highly prized in the 1800s. Pioneers went to great lengths to imitate the taste of lemon on the prairie where no such fruits could be had. For those who were lucky enough to have access to lemons, a salty lemonade was given as a refreshing tonic. Just thinking about it brings a pucker to my lips. But if that sounds strange, then consider that cinnamon almond lemonade was quite popular in 18th century France. Eel pie. People in colonial America were obsessed with eel pie, as were their relatives across the pond in England. Preserving meat in pies had been a standard way to consume meat or fish for centuries. These old-fashioned meat pies often had extremely hard crusts, which most people didn't eat. They were simply the vehicle for the precious animal protein inside. The flavor of eel was something that the colonials loved, and it was even made into a jelly. Today, overfishing and changing tastes have made eel a rare form of food in many parts of the world. Broxy. Broxy is the butchered meat of animals, usually sheep or lambs, that have died of an illness or even from a farm accident. These less desirable cuts of meat were sold cheaply at special butchers, which catered to the poor and the working classes of the Victorian period. You have to wonder if any diseases were transmitted this way. However, many people simply couldn't afford better quality meat. Heron pudding. Among the many exotic meats of the colonial era was heron. This fowl was made into a savory pudding or pie. It was important that no bones be broken in the process of making heron pudding. Apparently the bones of heron are filled with a fishy-tasting substance which flavors the whole dish if exposed to the meat. However, sources of the era advised to always save the fluid from the bones for later use in healing wounds, and some even swore by using it on bait when fishing. Herons are now protected under U.S. federal law, but no doubt many people today would refuse heron pudding, even if they weren't.